This is the tale of two frogs in Fat Tulip's garden. Ernie was a frog who loved mud, and he lived in a hole on a bank of a pond. Brown, slimy, oozy mud, and a pond full of green slime. Every morning he would do his exercises. He would get out of his hole,
run across the pond,
one summer morning he raced out of his hole, jumped over his tyre. He didn't go slosh into lovely squelching mud. He went boing onto really hard ground. "Sylv," he called. "Sylv!" Sylv was the frog who lived in the hole next to his.
"I don't want to live here anymore. There's no water, there's no pondweed, and there's no mud."
"Right," said Sylv, "then we must find somewhere else to live. We'll pack our rucksacks and see what's on the other side of the bushes."
Soon the frogs found themselves going down a little path, pushing the leaves aside, farther from home than they'd ever been before, when suddenly they heard a flip-flop, flip-flop, flip-flop noise of great big feet. And then they saw two enormous podgy feet dressed in sandals coming towards them, and on the end of the feet were two podgy legs with baggy trousers on them. "Yeah," said Ernie. "Is it a pig?" "No," said Sylvie. "It's a person." Suddenly, the person, who was carrying an enormous bundle of shopping, dropped a can of baked beans on his foot. "Nah! Ah!" he went, and when he did that, all the shopping started to topple out of his hands. He grabbed at a yoghurt, but it went all over his shirt, and he was grabbing at tomatoes and squeezing them all by mistake. "No," said the person. "Fat Tulip, you are the clumsiest person in the world." And he gathered up all his shopping, and then he staggered off down the path. But he'd left behind, on the path, a bag of crisps. Ernie waited until the person called Fat Tulip had disappeared, and then he hopped out and jumped onto the crisps. They made a good noise. Sylvie joined him, and they both jumped up and down together. It's like a frog trampoline. They jumped higher and higher and higher and higher until suddenly... "Ah! All the crisps have gone bang," said Ernie. "Someone's shooting at us." And he raced off down the path after Sylv. The two frogs hurled themselves into a green leafy bush. They shot right through it and landed in a garden.
"Phew, this place looks great," said Sylv. "I bet there's loads of muddy and wet places round here. Look at that."
Sylv hopped through the garden. "Look, it's a little house. We could live here." "Yeah," said Ernie. "It's very nice, but it's not wet and muddy, is it?" And Ern went to the compost heap. "Oh, yes, very nice," said Sylv, "but it's a bit smelly, isn't it?" And she went to the well. "Oh, yeah," said Ern, "it's very nice, but it's a bit deep and dangerous, isn't it?" Just at that moment, Jugga, 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 jugga. What's that? Said Sylv. I think I can hear a noise. It sounds like swishing water. And I think it's coming from the house. Ernie and Sylv hopped up onto the kitchen window and they peered inside. Jugga, 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 jugga. There was a machine that was going round spinning a load of clothes, and they were all wet and bubbly. Jugga, 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 jugga. And look, said Sylv, there's that person called Fat Tulip.
The washing machine's leaking water. And then he saw two little frogs on the floor, who hopped up and jumped into the bowl of washing up water.
Fat Tulip waded across the kitchen. He rolled up his sleeves, and then he plunged his great big pink podgy hands into the washing up. He got something. He'd got something small and round and slippery and green. But it wasn't a small, round, green, slippery frog. It was a small, round, green, slippery bar of soap which shot out of his hands. So he started throwing all the washing up out onto the kitchen floor. Crash, crash, crash it went, until there was only one small piece of washing up left. Aha, frogs, he said, I've got you now. And just at that moment, he slipped on the soap and fell bang on the kitchen floor. Whop! Come on, Sylv, said Ernie, let's escape. And they hopped out of the washing up, through the kitchen window, and landed on the path with Ernie spitting out soapy water. Whop! Said Ernie. That was a close shave. And then he pointed in amazement. Look at that. He was pointing at a little round pond that was full of mud and water and lily pads and pondweed. Oh, Sylv, he said, just what we've been looking for. And they both dived into the pond. That evening, Fat Tulip was still mopping up his kitchen. But ever gonna go for a swim in a washing machine again.